they said, you're always busy. And I said, there's a distinction between being busy and super busy. So Craig, you were talking about, when you get super busy, other things then tend to fall through the cracks, which was also one of the things was Anna's wonderful email that explained everything to me. And I thought I had more time than I have because I wasn't really paying attention. So I'm going to present and probably talk a little fast, but this isn't a big group. So if you have a question, please just, butt in and ask it. And because we're learning together. And so it's not about me being expert, it's about me sharing. So know that I'm okay with interruptions and questions. I get that all the time. So, one of the things that I've recognized over the years, and I'm going to explain a little bit of my history, is there's, the difference between, when we say pushing people, it's not that we're like, trying to make them believe something, but even when we're telling them what's good for them, what's right for them, which is what we do as trainers, as consultants, that doesn't mean that's going to change their mind. That was difficult for me to understand that, because I ran training departments in companies for years. And when you think about the people that you're with, even the intention, is it that you just want them to confirm, are they looking for you to confirm what they already believe? Or are they seriously open to new possibilities? And if they aren't fully open right now, how can you open their minds? That was always a question. So in the late 1980s, I actually got my second master's degree in adult learning because my career and training was accidental. I got my first master's at San Francisco State in broadcasting and ended up pushing television sets around a psychiatric hospital, but working for the training department. And my boss decided to get her doctorate and dumped the entire training department in my lap. And my first assignment was management training. So I had to go get another degree to figure out what I was doing. But it got me fascinated about learning and developing people's minds and how can you actually change behavior? What is sustainable change? So I kept learning and practicing and making my training better. And I got all the happy faces, and yet then they'd go out, and as soon as they felt awkward, they'd go back to old behavior. And we all know that it's so difficult. I love Bregman's quote, "We are what we believe, we find what we go looking for." I mean, isn't it amazing when you talk to people and you think you've really communicated well, and then you ask them later, what do you remember? And it's something it's like, what? I said that? It's like, no, that whole thing about even memory, when we recall and we change it and distort it, it's never exactly what we want. It was actually the last day of my last job, that I had resigned, that it was 1995, and somebody sent me this article on this new thing called coaching. And I said, well, this is fascinating. And so I went and I watched a coaching demonstration. And I said, there's something different here, which has launched me on my journey of really understanding what goes on in the brain. I actually got my doctorate there in Sacramento on neural leadership and what's happening when we coach that's different than when we tell. And I'm constantly researching, and my last book, Coach the Person, is doing very well around the world. I just found out there's 4 more countries wanting to translate it. That'll make like 9. I have a new book coming out in January because I'm constantly learning. There's so much more to learn. Herb, you were talking about Tai Chi. One thing I learned from martial arts is that mastery is a journey. There's no destination. It's the path of mastery, not to mastery. So, and what I bring to my training and my work is constantly evolving as well. But what I learned early on, and what, I'm going to skip a little bit. There's another exercise that I really want to do. So you don't have to write this in the chat, but I want you to think about it. The thing is that the reason why we have to create psychological safety first is that their brain is generally closed off to new ideas, even if they trust you and they think you're smart. But we tend to rationalize our beliefs before we're willing to change them. And what I found, and I use a lot of work from John Dewey, he was an educational reformer and wrote a book in 1910 called How We Think, where he really defined coaching. He wanted school teachers to, when a student talks, to reflect, to summarize what they're saying so they can think about their thinking and then ask questions. And what Dewey said was the smarter the person is, the quicker and the better they are at rationalizing. So we're running into master rationalizers when we try to work with clients, whether we're coaching, whether we're consulting. And how do we work with helping them recognize their belief systems, to really look at their thinking? And I do this because that's what we do in coaching. We hold out their stories and their thoughts out here so they can look at it, because they can't actually see it in their brain. There's a study I just came across just like 2 weeks ago, where they actually were studying brainwaves, EEGs, on 3 people solving problems. One group were solitary. I sit in the corner and ruminate and try to solve it on my own. The least amount of brainwaves, the least amount of ideas. The second group was where they were working with mentors and experts and people giving them suggestions and ideas to consider. More brainwaves, mediocre. But then they actually used what I call reflective inquiry coaching, where they were summarizing what they heard and asking questions. The brainwaves went off the chart. The people came up with 3 to 4 times more solutions to their problems, and they were excited and more confident about taking steps to move forward. Science is finally catching up with something that we know. So I am passionate about coaching. And yes, I teach. I teach for 5 coaching schools in the world. I'm always out there. I have some online programs. If you Google me, you'll see a ton of things. So I am telling people when I teach. But recognizing what I'm teaching is to help them truly expand consciousness, change behavior, using, even if it's just a coaching approach. So I'm not asking you all to be coaches, but to consider using coaching approaches to your conversations. And I know there's many famous consultants who have written about this, of how you summarize and ask questions. But the thing that's often missing is that's the doing. But the being of coaching, that in order to truly disrupt their thoughts, and this comes from neuroscience, we have to be an external thought disruptor, that they have to feel you are there for them. They have to feel how much you care, that you believe in them, that you aren't there as expert, that you're there as partner, And that's the definition of coaching. It's a partnership, equal conversation, not I'm the expert and you're not, not doctor patient. It's equal. I believe in you. And if I help you think, you're going to see possibilities that I wouldn't even give you because I'm not living your experience. So it's the being, in order to get to the stories, to help them see beyond their stories, to truly solve their problem. And this is what coaching is. It's like, I can't see beyond my story till I first see my story. You can't see beyond the box until you first see the box. I always say, think outside the box. What box? You got to see the box to think outside of it. They have to see their story. So what we're first doing is never assume you understand your client's story, ever. You have not lived their experience. I don't care. And Craig, you will appreciate this. I mentor coach this group of Orthodox women in Brooklyn they're all moving up in their coaching. They've all lived next door to each other. They know each other. And you know what? That's the biggest mistake they make in their coaching, is that they don't stay curious. They assume they know what the person is thinking, and it's wrong. Please don't ever assume you know what they're thinking, you know their experience, you've been there before. You have not. You have not. So to stay curious and to truly ask the questions to understand, because this is when we create what's called insight-based learning. So the reason that the brain waves went crazy is because when we're coaching, we're operating in the middle brain, the creative center, which actually sparks. It's called creative insight or insight-based learning. It's not cognitive-based, fact-based learning. It's not fear-based, like you better do this or else. It's insight-based learning, which truly creates sustainable change, is what we're looking for. So we coach people to see their thinking, to see, hear, notice. I'm often starting by just saying, okay, so I think I understand what you're saying, and I will summarize it. And I don't care if they've talked 5 minutes, I'll say it in 2 sentences, and they're like, yeah, that's it. So I've gotten really good at that. I hear the key words because I'm fully present. I am not thinking. Whenever people watch me coach, and on my YouTube channel, there's demos of me coaching. They always say, what were you thinking at that moment? And I'll say, I wasn't thinking. Before I go in, my mental preparation is emotional. I'm curious and I care. And I receive what they give me and I just offer it back. It seems like this is what's most important to you. It seems like this is the outcome you're looking for. And they can tell me I'm wrong, but that's where we started. I noticed that you got really frustrated when you were talking about that group of people. What is it that's causing the conflict that you're aware of? So I'm only receiving and offering back. But to do that, I have to be fully present and they have to trust me. So my question to you today, especially as you're hired for your expertise, but can you give up being the fixer and the one who knows exactly what to do in order to at least start the conversation with coaching? So when you think about what makes this difficult, is like, yeah, you're paid for your expertise. You're paid to be smart, and my coaching, even experienced coaches around the world, they always say, but I worry about what value I give people if I'm not giving them ideas. And I'm like, oh my God, how much value you're giving them by helping them truly see their problem. When they say that I'm having conflict, just saying, so what do you mean by conflict? Describe the conflict to me. How much value there is just in those 2 questions, that they can start seeing what they've been just assuming and judging and fearful of. And so my being curious up front helps them to start thinking about their own thinking and what's possible. So giving up being the expert and the one who knows what to do, I know it's tough, and most of us, I've got what now? I explained to you 3 advanced degrees. I certainly know things. But to give that up is what I keep learning. And I've worked with a man who teaches at Stanford, Alan Briskin, who wrote in the 90s, The Stirring of the Soul in the Workplace, which changed my life. And he has the same publisher as me, Barrett Kohler, who's there in the Bay Area. And he wrote a book recently, co-wrote, called Collective Wisdom. And I've been working with them on how do we bring collective wisdom to coaching. And, in the advanced programs that I developed, and there's so much that can happen in between, in the energy between us. That's even more surprising and amazing than when I just tell people what to do. So the trick is to really even just start with coaching is to give up knowing, to be curious, and to believe in them. So not to worry, am I giving them value? It's amazing to me where my client seems like stuck, and boom, they know. When I just trust the process of coaching. And at the end, they're more confident, they're more satisfied. even my really gruff CEOs, and they're like, I don't have time for this. Just tell me what to do. I'm like, well, let me just fully understand your situation. I think you might know what to do, but you've just been so busy you haven't thought about it. And then I move into coaching regardless. And it's amazing what comes forth. So I am an advocate and I'm passionate about coaching because of the magic that it creates. And I forget, I was in the session with Herb and Wendy, and who was the third person? I forget.
Donovan.
Donovan, you were talking about magic.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Change.
Yes, and I think that coaching creates magic. So wonderful. So one of the things, what I love about the new ICF competency is they now have the coaching, embody a coaching mindset, which is interesting because it's embody the entire body, a coaching mindset, that I've been writing about this, and it's a part of my work, that before it's not even as important what you say as the energy you bring, and that I'm constantly learning how to deepen my presence and unself, releasing the I, quit analyzing and thinking about what they're telling me, just receive it and offer it back. The more I can release my ego and my I, the more powerful and magical the interaction is. So the three things that I found that I find are really, really important is, all your work around emotional intelligence. Choose your emotion before you go in. And anytime you feel stuck, irritated, impatient, or the urge to fix, to go back to feeling curious and care, courageous and calm, choose two emotions. And then there's a lot of power, and I'll mention it briefly, around aligning the nervous system. So I'll talk about that quickly. And then judgment. Judgment is an emotion. I have the great opportunity to teach in China. I have for 12 years. No, now it's 14 years. I get to go back in June, and they're constantly triggering my value systems, my emotions, like, huh? Which teaches me what judgment feels like so I can let it go. So bless the Chinese for doing that. So I want you to think about what triggers you to be uncomfortable, confused. Is it their emotions when they're uncomfortable, confused, angry, impatient? How do you respond? We do pick up other people's emotions, but can we then, empathy is not feeling with them. Empathy is just accepting what they're feeling, understanding it, and then letting it go. So we have to detach from their emotions, not feel their emotions. We have to stay present and not rush in to fix them. With my clients, it's like, I don't care if your client is crying. It's not your job to fix them. If you jump in and try to make them feel better, you're making them weak. I always say that, remember why you're there. Remember why you're there. So my client can get, I had one woman, I just asked her a question and she screamed at me and you don't understand and hung up. That's okay. I recognize I touched a pain point with her, and fortunately she called me back. She called me back and I'm like, okay, I didn't find it as a failure. I just asked her a question. So remember that you aren't there to help them to feel better. You're there to help them to see better. Okay? And that's your goal, is always to see better. So again, the thing about emotions is we all have emotional reactions, even judgment. And that's the human condition. To say, I don't feel anything, and, or leaders still saying, there's no place for emotions at work. It's like, well, you might as well just hire robots and use AI because the human condition, the human experience is an emotional condition. Emotions happen before thought. we were taught to believe that we think, therefore I am, which is, I was going to use a word. It's not true. I feel, therefore I think, therefore I am. Emotions happen first. So to be able to catch your emotional experience and then say, here's what I want to feel instead, is my choice. Intelligence, the root of the word intelligence is choose between, is choosing, intelligere, choose between. You choose your emotion. So you don't want to suppress it, because then it just makes your body messed up, or you go home and yell at people. But you choose what to feel, because your emotions are going to radiate energy. Thought has no energy. When they go to measure energetic exchange, electromagnetic energy, thought has no energy, but our emotions do. Anger, fear, very dense energy, where happiness, care, compassion, curiosity, hope has light energy, and it spreads out. People pick it up. We have to. It's a part of our survival system, is I must know how you feel. So the moment that you walk in the room, I'm sensing how you feel, even before you open your mouth, and that to be open, may make you feel vulnerable. Craig, you'll appreciate this. When I first started speaking, and I was working with an acting coach, they said, go out and love your audience. And I stood in front of 2,000 people and I thought, I love you. And then I felt totally naked. What if they hate me? I was scared to death. And I said, no, let it go and just love them. And it was the best presentation I had ever given. And they bought like 300 books, which was great. So the experience of emotional intelligence is to know where do I feel my fear, my impatience, my disappointment. And in the moment, you don't have to know what exactly you're feeling, but can you notice I'm starting to get tight in my chest, my breathing. And then we breathe into it and then choose. This is something you're going to have to do throughout the conversation. So it's not just mental preparation, but while you're with someone, to constantly just be noticing, am I feeling any tension? What is it I choose to feel? There's so much emotions. To have them truly are that it's we give, respect them, believe in them. I use a lot of humor. I know Craig does too. Just to lighten things up, and it's not self-effacing, and I certainly am not using it against them, but just some lightness sometimes. It's like, I remember saying to someone, they were telling me something they believed, and I'm like, so how long have you been believing this? And I said it really lightly, and they go, oh my God, I've been believing it all my life. And that was the breakthrough moment for them, to recognize how long they've been holding on to a particular belief. So here's the formula that I give people. During your conversations, can you recognize points of tightness? Breathe into it, ground yourself. Herb, I know you know about grounding and being centered. I learned from interviewing professional athletes for a program that they don't think about being a winner, because they said, then you also think I could be a loser. But they've been taught to drop their awareness to the center of their body, their core, their chi, their ki, right below your navel. And if you put your hand there and just rub around the center of your body, anytime you're uncomfortable, just drop your awareness there and choose how to feel. If you can quickly do that in a matter of seconds, you will change the nature of the conversation. And if you're before you go into a conversation and you're like busy, you're super busy and it's hard to get present, your handy dandy tool, is right here, always next to you, called your phone. And if you look, probably even your Screensaver is something you appreciate, but go to your favorite pictures. You're going to see your family, your pets, a place that you love to be, something you love to do. This is where I live. I'm so lucky. I live in Phoenix, and I live right at the base of these mountains. Gratitude. Look at your pictures, and it will bring you back to being present immediately, to the things, you know, that make you smile. And the moment you smile, you're releasing all the wonderful chemicals that give you a sense of well-being in your body. So use your phone. I do this in my classes. I have people bring out their phones and look at their pictures and have them share, and they're always laughing and smiling. I'm like, see how easy it is to shift? Don't tell me you can't, because I know you can. Then if you look on my website, covisioning.com, there's a special hidden page. If you type in the search coach the person resources, you're going to get videos and articles and a visualization of how to open your entire nervous system with an audio, so you can listen to it while you practice. But there's a lot of research that was actually sent to me after my book, The Discomfort Zone, about the power. They use it in trauma therapy. If you open up your mind with curiosity, your heart with care, and your gut with courage, the person you create psychological safety, and they will open up to you like they never have before. And in trauma therapy, they found that people will speak of their trauma for the first time in their life when the therapist comes in with an open mind, heart, and gut. This is powerful. So when people say, what were you thinking? It's like, I don't know. I'm receiving what they give me through my heart and my gut. Of course, I have to process it into language, but then I offer it back. Is this what you're saying? This seems to be what's most important to you. Is that true? It seems like this is the biggest challenge that's keeping you from what you want. Can you tell me more about that? But I pull it through my gut and my heart. This is really, really powerful. So if you don't know about this, please, you know, the curious brain, the tender heart, the purposeful gut, the purposeful gut.
And
That's how we activate.
Marcia,
Yeah,
could I just
yeah,
make a comment on that, on the gut?
yeah,
Because I just learned this a couple months ago that in your gut, right, you have bacteria that actually make neurotransmitters like your adrenaline, like your precursors, or
yeah.
serotonin, all these different chemicals that influence your thinking. So it's interesting.
500 million neurotransmitters. And yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of things written on the thinking brain. Thank you for that. Your brain processes information just like your head brain, even more than the heart. And so we're pulling it in, but the brain and the heart don't have language. They have to send it up to our brains to translate. So we think we're thinking when actually it's coming through our gut and our heart. So thank you for that. It is incredible, isn't it? It's incredible. So again,
Amazing.
there's the website with this special hidden page that has that, you know. And then the final thing, you know, is I mentioned judgment. You know, the moment you feel the urge to tell them what to do, you're judging them as inadequate. Do you know that? The moment you know, if they start to get upset and you say, oh, it's okay, you don't have to feel that way, you're making them weak. You're making them weak. You just judge them. You know, and so if you really are their thinking partner, you have to release judgment. And that's why I say trust the process of coaching. There's so much that comes forth. And again, that doesn't mean toward the end of a coaching session, I don't offer suggestions, ideas, but I need to understand them first and their experience and how they see it before I could even give them the best ideas. And even to understand more so than how they see their challenge, what's making them afraid. You know, like when I tell leaders about, you know, just to stand in the place of not knowing. They're like, how can I do that? I'm expected to know. I'm expected to know. I'm like, who says? I mean, we all know that when you say to someone else, I don't know exactly what to do. What do you think? How powerful that is. They're not judging you as an idiot. They're judging you as, wow, you care about how I think. So being able to recognize judgment, again, I didn't even know it was an emotion till the time I was in China and I was dealing with an HR VP who was about to retire. And he said, he was trying to determine if he should be a coach or not. And I said, what do you love about your job right now? He says, oh, I love developing people. I love seeing the light in their eyes when they can realize they can do much more than they thought. And I love instilling the principles of communism. So, my whole body went, because I grew up in that time when, it's like communists are going to bomb us. We have to jump under our desks at school, and, I'm just second generation. My grandparents came from Ukraine running during the Bolshevik. And, I mean, there's a lot of stuff I hold around. I get triggered by that word, regardless if Chinese communism is different than Russian communism. It doesn't matter. But I caught it. I felt it right here. I feel it in my solar plexus, my judgment. And I went, whoop. And I went, oh my God. And I almost felt it bubbling up. And I caught it before I spoke. And I said, wait a second, here's this lovely man who loves developing people. Who cares what his politics is? It has nothing to do with this moment. And I came back to loving him. And I was able to finish the coaching. It was powerful. This was a demo, let me just say, in front of 50 people. And it was an amazing experience. Funny thing is, I went to some credentialed Chinese coaches afterwards, and I was trying to explain to them what happened. And they're like, huh? What was your problem? I'm like, communist democracy. And they're like, huh? I'm like, never mind. So that's why I say I love it that I'm able to recognize when I'm thinking this is wrong, this is right, this is going to turn out badly. Are you willing to stop and observe this process? This is so critical. So I think we have a little time. I would like to you know what? You can put people back in the groups they were in. I just won't join my group. And I just want you to talk a little bit about what I've been talking about here and how this relates to your relationships with your clients. You know what? I'm just going to give you like 6 minutes, and then we'll come back and finish off the session. Okay?
And Marcia, we're in good shape for time.
Okay, great. I know I've been like, I know, but I have one more exercise that's going to take a little longer.
Okay, great.
So, okay, so
I'm opening all rooms now, and we'll have 6 minutes.
okay.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. So I have one final thing to share with you and then another final exercise. But is there any questions before we move on?
When you step out of a space of fear, it seems like that's when learning occurs. Like, how do these emotions that you're fostering affect learning?
First off, one of the things that I've learned in my search to be more effective in helping people learn is that coaching is the best learning technology we have right now. But I have to have safety. The person has to be fully safe with me, that they can take a risk, they can be wrong in their process of learning. Otherwise, they're not going to learn. They're going to defend themselves. So I remember even it was a funny thing because just accepting where they are right now and who they are, understanding also that learning has cultural overtones. So I was teaching a leadership class, a pilot in Copenhagen. I did a lot of leadership training for Maersk, the shipping company. And about an hour into it, and the head of HR was there, they started asking me these questions. How do you know this? And blah, 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 really challenging me, and I went to her at the break, and I was starting to say, something's wrong. And she's like, oh my God, they're so into this. They so love this. I'm like, really? She said, oh, don't you know that's how the Danes are learned? They challenge. That the more they challenge the teacher, it shows the more interested they are. They're taught to challenge. And that taught me even then, you know what? You just care about your people in the room. I care about you. I honor you. And let's look at this together. And they sense how I honor them and I care about them. They're open to learning. So you have to be able, they have to feel safe with you. And that you believe in them. Your intention is there to help them grow, not to make them do something. If they believe in your intention, they will open their mind. So emotions have a lot to do with opening up to learning. So thank you, Donovan, for that. Okay, so I'm going to share one last thing with you. So one of the things I always suggest people do before I go on a judgment field trip. This is how I learned about my own judgment, like go to the grocery store, go to the airport, and for me, it's my sister, any place that's going to totally trigger your judgment so you can feel it. Oh, look, there's my judgment. Because the quicker you can catch it, the quicker you can release it and let it go and come back and being compassionately curious with the people you're with, and so my sister is my constant teacher. It's crazy, and so that state of I am here for you. I am here for you. So if you're always provoking, convincing, or telling them what you think, they don't necessarily feel you're here for them. How can you bring this feeling into the conversation, which then opens their mind to learning, Donovan, and creates the magic?
Yeah, from Thick Thought Han, the guy that knows.
Take that time.
I know. I love that. I love that. Okay. So one of the things that I learned, this is the thing I was talking about before this, that I used to teach the last company. I spent a lot of time in Taiwan and Thailand, and I told you now I'm in China and Malaysia, and I've learned about philosophy. And I don't call it religion, it's the philosophy, the Zen. And I really love this. In the beginner's mind, there's many possibilities. In the expert, there are few. And I have a whole story behind this, and I don't have time to share it all. But this was the thing, I shared this, and then I got in Orange County with these executives, and I got this nasty letter saying, you know what, you believe in that Eastern ball of those people who are poor. And, I mean, it was so like awful. I'm like, wow, you're certainly not open. I hope you don't express that to your client. Certainly not beginner's mind. It's like, did you not hear what I was teaching? No, because he was so busy judging me, so busy judging me. But I learned this, and it was amazing because it was easy there, but when I came home, I'd always forget to practice. And it was my cousin Stuart that I always struggled with because he talked really slow, took forever to get to the point, and he ran factories, and they transferred him to outside of Phoenix. And he says, let's go to dinner. He had met this woman in Mexico. They got married, but she couldn't come to Phoenix for a few months. So I went to dinner with him in a Chinese restaurant. And I'm like, okay, beginner's mind. I'm going to find something incredible about Stuart. And he's talking about the factory, and they have to retool and shut down for a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying. And then finally the waitress comes over to take our order. He looks up at her and he orders in Chinese. And I thought, well, okay. But I look at her and she's like, huh? And I'm like, oh, great. And then he says, oh, you must not speak Mandarin. You must speak Cantonese. And he orders in Cantonese. And she takes the order. And I knew he spoke Spanish with his wife. I said, Stuart, you must have taken an amazing amount of languages in school. And he goes, no, I just run factories. I listen to people and I pick it up. Now, I've taken beginning Spanish 6 times and can speak about 6 words. And this guy picks up all these languages. It's like, did I not find something amazing about Stuart that changed my whole perception of him? And I'm really lucky because he was in a terrible accident 6 months later and didn't make it. And I went to the funeral, and afterwards, you know, as Craig would know, we always have a big celebration of life and eat a lot of food. And I told everyone my story, and his mom, my aunt, says, let me tell you a few more things. And she told me how he wrote music and symphonies and lyrics for his songs, and he never took a music lesson in his life. And then she said, you know, I got the opportunity to go around Arizona with him and watch him teach his philosophy of love to the children. She said he changed his religion. I didn't like it until I watched him. And that's when I said, I'm going to share my story every chance I can, because you know what? Why do we judge? What a waste of time and energy. Can we just be with people and just care and be curious? And that then shifts for them to be curious as well. So that's the practice. And we have a little bit of time. You know what, Anna, could you just put people in pairs? Can you like redo that quickly? Okay. What I'd like to do is we really only have like 10 more minutes, but I'd like you to practice this. 5 minutes, 4 minutes per person, just 4 minutes and then switch, okay? This is what I teach my leaders in a coaching approach, just to start the conversation, to say, not just listen, which is cognitive exercise, but to release who I am in this moment, what I think is right, what I want, my goal, so I can receive what they're saying, and to appreciate how they see something. They're not wrong, it's just their experience right now. And then I just summarize what I hear, and then maybe ask a question about what I summarize. So I want you just for 4 minutes, see if you can not jump to solutions. So somebody, I want you to quickly describe a challenge you're facing in just a minute or two so your partner can practice. And partner, I want you to receive, appreciate, then summarize, and maybe ask a question only for clarity, not for solution, not what have you tried, just, you know, what do you mean by that? Tell me more. Okay? So if you put people in pairs, each person 4 minutes, and then switch, and just try this, and we'll come back and end off the class.
There's only one room that will have 3 people, but everybody else will be in pairs. So opening
Okay.
now. And how many minutes did you say? I'm sorry, Marcia.
So 40. So 4 minutes each. So make it 8, just make it 8 minutes.
Yeah, maximum. Yeah.
8 minutes.
Mhm.
Okay. Opening now.
Okay. So I'll come back for your insights in a minute. Is everyone back? Okay. So this is my closing thought, that it's really about, you know, the path of mastery is about deepening your presence to fully be with people. So they feel seen, heard, and valued. They want you to be present. They don't need you to be perfect, to have all the answers. But can we do this together? So you can go on my website, find all my stuff, find that page that I shared with you. And whoops. Are we out of the share? I can't see. I lost it.
We should be, yeah. We have
Okay.
18 people. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I wanted to make sure the share went away.
Okay.
So you can find me wherever, you know, if you have questions. So I think we're about time up. Is there any final thing you want to share or insight or question that anybody has? Thank you.
Marcia, thank you. That was just incredibly on time.
Yeah, it was great.
9:50. That was really terrific. Thank you so very much for being with us
So
today.
welcome.
Let me
Yeah,
just
you're
put
so
my screen
welcome.
back on.
And I would echo that. I feel to a huge degree, you were talking my language. I have taught energetic and emotional integrity, which are other names for what you're talking about, and
Yes.
practiced a coaching program called self-discovery versus, telling people, because, then you get stuck in telling them forever and ever. When you
Right.
empower them to get their own answers, you really are supporting their own wisdom. So I
Very
love
nice.
the way you
Well said.
packaged it, Marcia. It was, it's wonderful to hear kind of what you already know, but packaged in a different way. So very, very helpful and inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you, Ame.
Thank you.